So Jack Della Maddalena gave Belal Muhammad a lesson on defeat the other night and became the UFC welterweight champion. And my reaction looked something like this. Quickening heartbeat at the prospect of Ian Garry possibly getting a shot at the title.
That's gross.
So as I said, Jack Della Maddalena gave a lesson to Belal Muhammad. Don't know what Belal Muhammad was doing. He literally shot maybe 2 or 3 takedowns. I guess it was ego maybe, or was it just the fact that Jack Della Maddalena's footwork was on point and the hands were on point and he just got tuned up. Doesn't matter what way you look at it, it was actually nice to see, to be honest with you. Very happy for Jack Della Maddalena. But on the run up to this, Ian Garry did, in fairness to him, a really good job of inserting himself into the welterweight conversation and possibly even a title shot. Now I know what you're thinking, that's never going to happen. You just never know with this kid. You just never know with Ian Garry. The dude is so riddled in ADHD and autism and just general annoyance that the UFC might actually think the fact that so many people are watching to see this guy get knocked out, that he is the ultimate heel, and they might put him in there. And whilst Ian Garry is constantly vomiting out verbal diarrhea, like pretty much everything he says is special needs and to be taken with a pinch of salt. Just look at the Carlos Pratas fight. The dude thinks that his game has elevated again. He spent the last round crawling around on all fours, getting absolutely battered. Yeah, he looked good for the first 2 or 3 rounds on the feet, staying 6 feet away from Pratas and moving around incessantly. Yeah, that looked cool. But every premeditated, planned action from this kid, or whether it's just an organic one, is usually retarded. And I pointed out something in the aftermath of that fight and in the aftermath of the Shavkat fight, and I posted it over on Twitter. And I said, second consecutive fight where Ian Garry embarrassingly attempts to force his opponent to take a knee, believing it was fight of the year. Bro, it wasn't even fight of the night. And people are like, what are you talking about? Here's the Shavkat fight. So as you can see, grabs Shavkat by the neck, tries to pull him down. Shavkat resists, blocks the takedown, and ends up kind of flopping onto his ass as if to say, dude, I'm not kneeling down in front of you. This wasn't like some absolute like fight for the ages. You know, I was injured, you were flopping around. Grand. Does the exact same thing with Carlos Pratas. Grabs him, pulls him back, actually tries a takedown. Let's get onto our knees here and praise each other. His own coaches have to come in and tell him to get up off his knees. You look like an absolute spastic. And as I said, is there ever a moment on the build-up to a fight, in the aftermath of a fight, on the build-up to a championship fight like the other night where he was the backup fighter, bizarrely, where he doesn't make an absolute spastic out of himself? Is there? Like, I've never seen it. I've never seen an interview where I've come away from it and gone, geez, yeah, fair play to you, man. That sounds great. Well done. Like, you know what I mean? I'm rooting for you. It's usually delusional and special needs takes one after another, and it's actually hard to watch. So last week, I guess Ian Garry reverted back to his old, like, practical joker tactics, I guess perpetuated by his missus, thinking that it's another great PR move. You know, like wearing t-shirts of Jeff Neal and sending pizzas to people's hotel room, all that sort of garbage. Can you imagine that he's been advised by someone that this is a really good PR plan and strategy to build your career and win back the fans? Because to be honest with you, I don't know if there's a more hated fighter on the roster. I really don't. And when you think about someone like a Paddy Pimblett, who was at odds with the fans, I wasn't a big fan of him at all and made videos about him acting the Muppet. Like a light switch, he realised what was going on and turned that ship around. One of my favourite guys now. One of my favourite guys. I actually want to see him go all the way. That's been honest. I don't know whether Ian Garry is capable of turning it around like this. So in regular fashion, last week he was using his son as a PR tool or whatever, and he made him send some M&Ms to Jack Della Maddalena because he googled the fact that it was his favourite food or some shit like that. And when Jack Della Maddalena was asked by a reporter what he thought of Ian Garry's tactics, he actually responded really well and absolutely scalded Ian Garry.
Ian Garry got his son to feed you M&Ms, and he's been planting M&Ms around you all week. What's it like having a very vocal backup opponent, and has it been distracting? Were you tempted by the M&Ms at all?
I don't think that's actually Ian's son. And I don't like M&Ms.
So there you have it. He absolutely scalded and schooled him very quietly and very subtly in a really well put together manner, I have to say. Fans went crazy about Jack Della Maddalena's wild comment about Ian Garry at UFC 315 press conference. A quiet and savage response by Jack Della Maddalena, and you love to see it. You love to keep them fires burning, of course. Of course, the media wanted to ask Jack Della Maddalena, would he refute what he said and maybe take a little bit of a back step, and this is what he had to say.
The press conference on Thursday, someone asked you about Ian Garry's son giving you M&Ms. You had an interesting comment to make. I wonder if you wanted to expand on that.
I mean, I said what I said, and that's what I think.
There you go. Another noble savage of a response from Jack Della Maddalena. I said what I said and that's it. And as I said, the heart rate started to tick over when you saw Ian Garry as the backup fighter, when you saw so much interaction between Jack Della Maddalena and him on fight week, and the press actually getting in behind this narrative. And if we're being 100% honest, if Ian Garry was to step foot into the octagon with Jack Della Maddalena this weekend, I don't know how I'd feel about that fight in terms of anxiety rates. And true to form, right after all this yesterday, another PR masterclass from Ian Garry. He puts out this video.
You've got the new champion, Jack Della Maddalena, the Aussie, great performance, but sloppy. The rumour is...
I gotta pause that there. You're actually calling that performance sloppy after last week's performance against Carlos Pratas? That's a sloppy performance? The Michael Venom Page one? Where you fell all over the place like a white belt on his first Saturday morning BJJ class? That wasn't a sloppy performance. What about the Jeff Neal one when you ran around for a couple of rounds? That wasn't sloppy? Alright. He goes on here to talk about Islam.
Islam Makhachev is moving up to 170, and if he does, then all of us welterweights have to take a step back and give the man the respect he deserves.
Stop being a cuck for Islam, you absolute spaz.
But if negotiations don't go so well, then you've got a tall, blonde Irishman who's ready to take over the UFC and get that belt, and I will smoke Jack Della Maddalena. I'll box the ears off him.
What? So I had a look at the welterweight rankings yesterday, and they kind of vary from site to site. But we have Jack Della Maddalena, Belal Muhammad, Sean Brady, Leon Edwards, Shavkat Rakhmonov, Joaquin Buckley, all ahead of Ian Garry, who is standing at number 7. Now, when we jump over here, you can see that this one kind of switches it up a little bit. It has Sean Brady number 3, Joaquin Buckley number 4, Ian Garry number 5, Shavkat number 6, random. But just in terms of who's next for Jack Della Maddalena, because Ian Garry's talking about the tall blondie guy here who's ready to box the ears off you. Oh, stop. Shavkat Rakhmonov had a title fight booked, got injured, so I guess he's next for Jack Della Maddalena. Sean Brady is on a super run, and I love Sean Brady's style. I think that's serious. I think if he goes in there, he wins the title straight away against Jack Della Maddalena. Leon Edwards, yawn. Joaquin Buckley is fighting Kamaru Usman. Whoever wins that fight is automatically ahead of Ian Garry regardless of what way you look at these rankings. So in terms of this tall blondie special needs spaz getting a title shot, yes, it is a little bit of a fluttering of the heart thinking that that dude could be champion, but honestly there's probably 6 or 7 people ahead of him. Now he's matchmaking and he's talking about he should be in there fighting next, or I should be fighting this guy or that guy. Like Joaquin Buckley, Shavkat Rakhmonov, Sean Brady, even Belal Muhammad. Like, obviously the UFC aren't going to give him a rematch. Kamaru Usman, if he has a good performance against Joaquin, all these guys are ahead of Ian Garry. All these guys would smoke Ian Garry. And obviously Shavkat did it already, like with one hand. Very, very hard to listen to this kid. Little bit of a panic stations in terms of how much attention he's getting. Chasing down people like Jack Della Maddalena. Little bit embarrassing and spazzy as well, to be honest. And with the introduction of Islam Makhachev wanting to come up to 170, it makes the welterweight division really exciting. And it makes it even more impossible for someone like Ian Garry to find his way to a title shot. So I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think he's going to be champion anytime soon anyway. Let me know who you think Jack Della Maddalena will be fighting next. Let me know who you think Ian Garry should be fighting next. And let me know how you think this whole top of that division plays out and whether Islam deserves to come up and get a shot at the title. Very interesting going ons in the welterweight division. If any of this made sense, maybe hit like, subscribe and share. Cheers.